Hey, how you doing today? My name is Relyea, and thank you so much for stopping by. Yesterday, I had an interview with Leth. We talked a bunch about Crowsworn and the development of it, the most recent Kickstarter updates, and then I also showed him the ability that I paid as part of a Kickstarter backer campaign to get added to the game. But we continued talking and hanging out and just talking about gaming and random stuff in general. So this is like the extended cut of the other things we talked about beyond just Crowsworn. So yeah, I don't know if you're interested in that or not, but that's what this is. Let's jump right in.
These Metroidvanias, they're a little bit more old school, a little more,
It's funny that you say that. There's all kinds of gamers out there now. The first thing that comes to mind is "get off my lawn," like the old guy like trying to protect like the way things used to be. Because growing up, it was all SNES and like or the original Nintendo and like arcade gaming, where it was so difficult. Like, or like I remember going to arcades like with my dad, and he'd be like, "Here's $5. You have until you spend this money, and don't spend it on ticket games." And so you would go play the quarter. They used to have quarter arcades or whatever. But they were difficult. And so if you weren't good, then you blew through $5 fast, but the better you got to play longer.
Once you get down to your last your last quarter, you go over to Street Fighter 2 and see how long you can last against all the other players. Street Fighter 2 was in the arcade, was one of my bigger games that I would play because when you're good at the game, your money lasts longer.
Right? Street Fighter 2 Turbo.
And then people start lining up to try and take you down when you're just like stomping everybody. I mean, I think I had a couple times like that, but then my buddy would play against me and kill me. He was a better player.
Yeah.
But but then also like X-Men and all those games were meant to be hard to take your money.
Yeah.
They're gonna get it out of you somehow. But those were great times. Arcades are not really around so much anymore. But
no,
I mean,
kind of a dying breed. There's still some. They got what they call boomers. I'm sure they've got different versions of that in a lot of different places, where it's got the mini golf and the bumper boats or race cars kind of stuff. It's not quite the same though.
There's something called Dave and Buster's. Have you been to that?
Yeah. They got a Dave and Buster's near where I'm at.
And
that's
they have
fun too.
Arcades there. They have some arcades there. Last time I went to one of those was like at a TwitchCon over here in Texas. Actually, it was in Twitch, or not TwitchCon. It was PAX, right? Wait, let me think. Yeah, PAX South it was called. I think that's gone now. But they had a Dave and Buster's and they had some old shooter games, a Star Wars game. Yeah, it felt like
they got all the new games, which is really cool.
Right.
So it's definitely a more adult experience. I mean, you might as well hook up the card that they give you directly to your bank account, because I mean it goes so fast.
Yeah, it's like dollar games instead of quarters now.
yeah, that's
but back to your point though, the games back then, with the consoles that were around back then, like the NES or whatever, you didn't even have saves. There were no save games. So it was like you had to beat the whole game with 3 lives or like 3 continues or something. It was like, you gotta learn the whole game. There's no it was crazy.
Yeah, you're lucky if you get to pause it, and hopefully your parents let you leave the console on overnight.
Oh, that's right. You'd pause and leave it on, and then you wake up and someone had turned it off because it was overheating or something. But I guess Metroid back then was probably one of the first games that I can recall having
proper
progress,
save.
just natural progress, and like what else? Like Zelda,
Super Mario RPG.
Oh well, that's SNES.
That's
right?
SNES. Yeah, right. Oh, on the original Nintendo, yeah. There's very few. But then you would also save, and then you go back to your game later, and it didn't actually save the progress. Oh man.
Or it wouldn't be a save; it'd be like a code.
Oh,
you remember that?
Yeah, Mega Man X. That? Yeah. Well, I guess that would be like SNES, but still.
Like Castlevania, I think. I'm not sure. So there were some games where you had to put in like 16 symbols.
Yeah.
And it would throw you to that level when you came back.
And whatever abilities you had. Yeah.
That's pretty cool now that I think about it. You have to type in a code to get your save.
Yeah. Hopefully you didn't write it down wrong or whatever.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, you had to draw it. You know, you couldn't
Yeah.
take a picture. There were no
Yeah,
cell phones.
right. There's no phones. Oh
Yeah,
man.
different era.
Yep. But
Well, that's why
again,
we're
yeah,
punishing everybody.
it was
You
all
know?
difficult, and
Yeah.
not only that, but I remember that like gaming, it wasn't like a popular thing. Like you were a nerd if you were a gamer. Like it was
Yes.
kind of shunned, and so it was. I remember like if I met somebody new, I'd be like, "Hey, do you play video games?" And if they said no, I'd be like, "Okay," and I'd just like never bring it up again. Like that was
Right.
like that was
Yeah.
okay. That I tested the waters. They're not a gamer. That's fine. Like we can still be friends. I just can't ever share this really cool thing. But then I'd have like those kids who are just like, oh yeah, I also play Donkey Kong Country or whatever. I'm just like, dude, how do you get that DK token on World 3 level 5 blah blah blah? And then
before the internet,
right,
you know?
before the internet, it's all word of mouth more or less, right?
You know what I remember is it was like an underground. You had to like first you do step one is to figure out who's a gamer. Then
exactly.
Then figure out what system they got, what games they got, and then you trade. Did you ever trade?
Trade games? Little bit. Like if it was like really close friends, but not a whole lot.
Sometimes you get some guys like, hey man, I got this I got Spider-Man, and you're like, I got X-Men, you want to trade? Yeah, let's trade. And then you just like never see your cartridge back. It was a little like gambling, you know?
Yeah.
So you're like, well, I got Spider-Man now.
Yeah.
I like X-Men. I'll have to go try and get it again, I guess.
Yeah.
Yep. Good times, man. Those were the days.
Yep. Yeah.
Go to school, sneak in your cartridge in your backpack.
Yep.
And trade it with your friend at recess time.
Yeah. Oh man, loved it.
But now we're trading ideas for games that you're help funding.
Exactly. I'm so glad.
Segue.
Yep. Well, I always thought that my father was very much like, yeah, I don't know about this gaming thing. You're gonna have to give it up, and you're gonna have to get a real job, and this, that, and the other. And I told him, like, don't worry, I'll still work on getting a real job. But now I got YouTube as a little side thing, and I get to still play my video games. And he couldn't be prouder. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, he never thought that anybody would ever make money off of video games. He's like, what a waste of time. Like, nah, Dad.
Oh yeah.
I'm built different. Nah, not really, but.
That's true. Just 20 years ago.
Oh, that wasn't
would have been
thing at all.
Difficult, really, to have a career on video games. Until Minecraft came around, there just wasn't much of an independent video game scene. I think Minecraft really, I give a lot of credit to Minecraft for sort of putting indie games, making it, creating a market share for these cheaper games made by small developers and people
interesting
throwing money into it.
I never even thought about it like that, because it was a small. I don't really know much about the history of Minecraft. It was I know that they were indie, and eventually they got bought out by Microsoft and whatever else. But originally it was just a couple of people, and then that was like one of the first indie games to really blow up. Is that what happened?
Yeah. Oh yeah. There were a couple other indies before Minecraft, but I don't know how they managed to get onto consoles and stuff. They were on the Xbox. Xbox had a few indie games. I think one was called Braid. Was Braid before Minecraft or after? I think it was before. But I just think Minecraft kind of, people just started looking for, oh my god, indies. Then Steam Greenlight came around, then indies started getting onto Steam more, and now it's all wide open. It kind of just changed, and now I feel like I buy more indie games than AAA titles. So,
for sure.
This is a new way here.
They're just more bite-sized experiences. They don't overstay their welcome. You get to test out new mechanics that aren't necessarily like. You just get to try out a whole lot of different things. As opposed to a AAA game, they're usually asking for a heck of a lot of time. If you're going to do like an Elden Ring or I don't know, even a Dark Souls or something like that. Like they're just really meaty, tons and tons of hours, as opposed to maybe a 10 to 20 hour indie game. Like it's something that you could do and enjoy and kind of move on to the next one.
Yeah, I think another big part of it is like, indie teams don't have shareholders telling them, hey, don't do all this like risky avant-garde ideas that you're like putting out here. We want you to do the safe bet. Just copy this game and put a new skin on it. Like they don't, that game made $1 billion. Just do that with Assassin's Creed on top or Star Wars or whatever. Like they just you know what I mean? They don't take risks like indie teams do. And then there's pros and cons to that. Clearly, I mean, a lot of indies really struggle. They do stuff that's just too out there, and people are just like, whoa, what am I looking at? And you can't even identify what the experience is going to be. Got to take a chance. But fortunately, most indie games are priced very reasonably, so you can get them at a bargain.
Yeah. Have you seen the video that Stizzle did recently, doing a deeper dive into the Metroidvania landscape and how Metroidvanias in general, just having more of them being released over time?
No, but that doesn't surprise me. It's kind of like, I'll have to check out. I'll put Stizzle's video up later on when I always put videos up while I'm working.
Yeah, for sure. No, definitely worth checking out.
But kind of like Stardew Valley, I imagine what Stizzle's getting at were more Metroidvanias appearing on PC, because they weren't. It wasn't popular until Hollow Knight.
Exactly.
Really. And then I think what's going on is people played Hollow Knight and
got inspired,
or they were fans of Metroidvania games in general, and they're just like, well, I'm gonna make one also, since there's now a market on PC for one, and now we're 5 years later, we're getting all those games coming out that started in 2017.
Exactly. So yeah, it was a lot of that, and then it was also interesting at how the number of Metroidvanias grew faster than the overall Steam market. But on the flip side, the number of Metroidvania, so Steam is growing as a whole for like the total number of games are growing, but the rate of Metroidvanias is growing even faster. And then what was the other thing?
Oh, that's interesting.
The number of Metroidvanias, it has a higher failure rate than most other categories of games.
Oh wow.
He also pinned it down to a certain time of year. Games, if I remember right, he said Metroidvania games released at the second half of the year had a much higher fail rate than Metroidvania games that were released at the front half of the year, and it was like a substantial, like statistically relevant amount. It was just really interesting. And he defined failure as any game that got less than 10 reviews, and it was
10 reviews.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So yeah, and he said that some of these could be great games, but from a monetary point of view, that's a fail. And so he wasn't trying to say, hey, these games suck, but hey, just for the point of this video. No, it was really interesting the way that he laid it out, and all the stats he did brought up through Steam. So yeah,
I wonder if he could do Stizzle, go make a video on the Bullet Heaven, Vampire Survivors genre. I want to see how many games there are.
Because a lot of those popped up recently after.
There's so many.
Oh man, what's the main one that set that all off? Vampire Survivor. Right?
Yeah, they even, well, I mean, that's just, it's a great idea. I haven't played it myself, but I mean, obviously a lot of people love the game.
There's something about it. It's kind of addicting. It's really fun. Enemies get killed, and then they leave loot on the ground. You go pick it up, and oh my gosh, this treasure chest is like doing like a thing that looks like almost like gambling. It almost looks like slots sometimes, and it's Okay. Oh, you found a legendary item. Oh, this one's rare. Oh, this one's only common. And you're constantly like trying to be like, okay, well, this one isn't really for my build that I'd like to go for, but it's a legendary item. It kind of outweighs the other stuff and so on and so forth. So it's, yeah, I mess with it a little bit.
You like it? You play those games? It sounds like you got hooked on them.
I go through phases. Yeah. I go through phases. It was fun. So while I was deployed, there's certain times where I just don't have internet, and so that'll kind of change what types of games I'll play for periods of time. And not that I play a whole lot of online games, but just something that's like portable and easy to play in your hands. That's a great one to play on a Steam Deck or a Legion Go or whatever. So
yeah. Oh yeah, lots of those now too.
Yeah, apparently there's a ton of different handheld things that are starting to creep up.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I just have the Steam Deck, but I did kind of look at some of the others. They look interesting. I mean, they're all, functionally, looks like they're pretty similar.
Yeah, they're fairly similar. I think some of them might be a little bit more like better for graphics, or some of them have a better battery life, or whatever. But yeah, they're fun. I got the Steam Deck and the Legion Go.
Okay.
So yeah. Anyways. Oh. Yeah, I nerd out on all this stuff. Love it. Yeah, I didn't necessarily have like a bunch of other stuff to talk about for tonight. I kind of just wanted to show that off and chat you up for a little bit. I don't want to necessarily take too much of your time.
Sure. Did they pay you to say they didn't pay me? Yeah, that's.
Yeah, that was when. What's his name?
I think Alex and Eric were both being very complimentary to me at that time about publishing and the things I'm doing behind the scenes that nobody knows about and whatnot. But then also Eric pointed out he said, I think he called the intangibles of working with me on a game is I'm not plastering my name all over like a publisher does, and sort of getting some stolen valor when it comes to the games and who deserves credit for making the game. Yeah, I'm not interested in stealing the credit of the teams I work with at all.
Yeah. There's that.
People ask, hey, don't you want to do interviews? Don't you want to do this or that? I'm like, no, nobody wants to hear from me. I'm not the guy who made the game. Like they want to hear from Alex for Mongoose Rodeo, or they want to hear from Ari and William with Team Cherry. They want to hear directly from the guys. That's why I'm not crafting the tweets. I'm not doing all that stuff publishers do. It's I don't know. To me, it's an obvious thing, but I'm one of very few people doing that.
Yeah. No, that's smart. Because like they were saying in the video, it's just like, yeah, they put their name almost as big as the developer themselves. It's just like, what is this?
Oh yeah. Or bigger. They might show it first or whatnot.
It's just, they get their own splash screen. It's just like, okay.
Absolutely. They do that, and then you don't even, a team could leave, you get a situation, to bring it back to Halo, where Bungie leaves Microsoft and Microsoft's still putting Halo out. And it's like, I mean, this is an extreme way, let's just say like Bungie had kept Halo and took, went off and made Halo 4, I think was the first one that they weren't in charge of.
Yeah.
And people might be like, who the heck is Bungie? I thought this was a Microsoft game.
Yeah.
I don't know. Halo might be an exception. It was a pretty popular game, but
Halo was one of the first games that I was ever like, wait a minute, this game isn't like the other games. Like, what changed here? And then it was just like, the developers and the people changed.
The soul is gone.
Yeah, it's just like, this isn't what the other games felt like, and especially like 4 and 5, and it's just like, this isn't like Halo 2 and 3. it was just so different. I'm like, this is way more like Call of Duty or something like that. And yeah, that was definitely an awakening of like, oh, okay.
Really, this is a whole other discussion, man.
Yep.
Like when you just have when you just have a team that's been around for 30 years, do you think the same people are making the games now that were when the company became popular?
Oh, for sure not. Yeah,
No.
I mean,
no, it's new. It's some new folks, wearing the name of the company like a skin suit, putting stuff out under the same name, and it's just, it's usually not as good. What can I say? Like, I'm not gonna point at any companies in particular, but there are a lot of companies 25 years ago that I loved, and now I want nothing to do with them. No, it's not the same.
I think it's hard for most people to know, at least from like a player perspective, unless you're like really following that. Like, that's not like, the information's there, it's out there, you could go find it if you're looking that deep for it. But I mean, otherwise, most people would be like, yeah, why doesn't Rare just make another whatever game? And it probably wouldn't live up to anything of what those old games were, because they're not there. Those people aren't there anymore.
Yeah, I don't think so. I'm not sure. I don't know for sure about Rare. I think a lot of them left the team after Microsoft bought them, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But you always have to, you have to pretty much judge games, unless you know for sure it's the same team.
Yeah.
You have to judge them from scratch again. And you just, you have games that are on like the fifth or sixth sequel now, and it's just like, why isn't it as fun as the first two? It's like, well, that's not the same team, bro. It just has the same name.
Interesting.
Another reason to go with indies. They don't got internal turnover.
Yeah.
Like as much anyway.
So
maybe there's a couple indies out there with a bunch of turnover, but
when it comes to a big team like that, then who are like the top couple of people to look at? Because I imagine those teams are so big, especially like Microsoft or Nintendo or whatever games. Is it?
Yeah.
I mean, is it like whoever is like the lead developer or the top couple of people, or like?
Yeah, probably the. I mean, one of my favorite companies through the early 2000s was, or actually 90s and 2000s, was BioWare.
Mm-hmm.
And they got bought out by EA, and I was just like distraught. But I was kind of like, as long as Greg and who was the other guy? There were these two doctors that were in charge of BioWare, and I was kind of like, as long as they're in charge of the games, I'm not too worried, because they're kind of like the brainchild of BioWare. But then those guys kind of took a back seat. They kind of disappeared from public view. I don't know all the details or the story about why that was, but you started seeing other people talking for them on their developer diaries or whatever, and I'm just kind of like, well, that's it. BioWare I know is no longer, and I feel like that bears out in the games that they're producing now. It's sad to see. I mean, all these companies can make a turnaround. It's just, are they willing to do it, to look for that talent?
Yeah.
And people who are that talented, do they want to work for a big company, or do they want to go make their own game now? It's so easy it's so much easier to just go branch off and do your own thing. I imagine there's a lot of like talented folks, let's say you got this guru or whatever term you want to use, working at Ubisoft or Activision or Microsoft. Like, they're just going to be like, well, I'm just going to go download Unity and go make this
can do it
game
themselves.
idea I have, because it's so easy now.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, indie games, I think maybe that's a bigger reason why we've seen the insurgence of indie games is like prominent market share over AAA, because all the talent that was in AAA. It's like, well, it's not worth it. I want to go make my own stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The barrier to
right.
entry is starting to just get reduced, right? So
it's almost non-existent. For a while, everything was free, and I think you could still use like Unity, Godot, Game Maker is what I use. I think you can at least develop for free for a while, and then you have to probably pay for a license to launch the game commercially or something like that.
Yeah, I think some of them, man. I forget one. One of them I remember is just like it's free until you make your first $1 million, and then we'll start charging you.
I think that's Unreal.
Yeah.
I think Unreal does that. Yeah. And everyone's like, okay, fine.
Yeah. All right.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I love it. You know, I've been in this indie space for over 10 years now, and yeah, I don't think I would have done this or got into it if Minecraft and I think Terraria was one of the first big indie games on Steam. Well, if they hadn't come out, you know, I might have finished my game, one of my first games, and just like thrown it out there on the internet just to see if people would play it, you know, instead of trying to make money on it.
Yeah. How many games have you made now?
Well, I worked as a coder on the 2 Wanderlust games, and then Risk of Rain, and then a couple mobile games too for some other people. And then I switched to sort of publishing and stuff for, let's see, Interstellaria was the first game I launched for Chucklefish, then Stardew Valley. Then I left Chucklefish and joined Team Cherry, launched Hollow Knight, then launched Pathway, and now I've got 3 more games signed on between Crowsworn, Silksong, and another unannounced title that I'll be launching. And I'm coding my own game.
And I know you've been talking about you're working on something on your own for a while. I've been waiting for you to
for years
say something. Yeah, it's just been a couple of years, you know.
It has been a long time. The first few years I was kind of just tinkering with it and seeing if it was something I could make. And then last year, early 2023, I brought some artists onto the team and a musician and got some stuff made. So now there's actually an investment into it. Now I got to get it done.
Can you share what genre of game, or are you trying to keep it pretty close to the hip? Or
I'm keeping it secret for now.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Maybe a launch. Maybe not a launch, but maybe a reveal next year. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, that'd be
If
cool.
we'll be there. Trying to get it there. Still a lot more art to be done.
I didn't realize you'd worked with Stardew Valley, because I know that Concerned Ape comes around a lot on a lot of different, like Crowsworn or like, I don't know, different streams and stuff like that. And so I'm just like, oh, it's because you work together. Now it makes way more sense.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we worked together before Stardew came out to get beta testing done for the game, and I have my streamer connections, so I threw keys out at all the people I knew and to try and get the ball rolling quicker for marketing at launch. And I mean, Stardew's an incredible game. It kind of just took that snowball and made it a giant snowball instead of just a typical indie launch. It was incredible.
Yeah.
But he also did a number of things that helped market Stardew himself before I even got involved. Like he was sharing it on forums for Harvest Moon. He had the Greenlight, which was a great marketing tool. It was almost like a Kickstarter kind of feel, where you had to go vote for a game to go to Steam.
Yeah.
So that's a big marketing push there. And then Chucklefish was the publisher at the time. So naturally, when the game started gaining traction quickly, they kind of started putting more resources into pushing it post-launch. But I mean, the game's got to be good first and foremost, and that's all
For
Eric.
sure.
Yeah, I mean, again, like I said earlier, I'm not out there to try and take credit for how great a game is. So that's probably why most people don't know I worked on Risk of Rain or, you know, Stardew Valley or what have you in different roles.
Yeah.
It's like, well, it's not my game.
Yeah.
The one I'm making, sure, I'll take credit for that one, but not someone else's game.
All right, and with that, we got all of our updates for Crowsworn. Thank you guys so much for stopping by. Thank you to my members. Thank you for watching all the way to the very end, and I will talk to you again more real soon. Thanks. Bye.